5 of the 6 counts guilty of faking a hate crime. Jussie Smollett was. Now, positive side here. We've had 3 high-profile jury cases in recent history. Kyle Rittenhouse, Ahmaud Arbery, and now Jussie Smollett. Now, the Jussie Smollett case, far less significant in terms of what the jury was actually considering. But what I would say is, how about the jury looking at the facts in all 3 cases and rendering what I think is the factually accurate verdict? I want to give a little bit of props here to our jury system. Sometimes when things have existed for a long period of time, we don't really recognize how remarkable they are. Our American judicial system, we believe that 12 random jurors out there are going to be able to be selected and render equal, honest, and forthright justice. And most of the time, we are correct. Every now and then, a jury renders a wrong verdict because juries are made up of people and people are imperfect. But by and large, the wisdom of a 12-person jury is better than the wisdom of a politician, better than the wisdom of any individual media member. And that's what we have seen. The way that Jussie was covered, the way that Kyle Rittenhouse was covered, and the way that Ahmaud Arbery was covered is often sensationalized, not factually accurate. The way that politicians react, and I'm going to read a couple of politician tweets for you here in a moment. But what is remarkable is in all 3 of these high-profile cases, I believe juries got it right. Now, I want to call out lies and misinformation. Right now, did you know that it is still the case that there are tweets up from the Vice President Kamala Harris and also from Joe Biden saying that Jussie Smollett was telling the truth? These tweets aren't in any way marked as misinformation. There is no greater context given by Twitter. Big tech supposedly cares so much about people in positions of power sharing accuracies, yet Kamala Harris saying, Jussie Smollett is one of the kindest, most gentle human beings I know. I'm praying for his quick recovery. This was an attempted modern-day lynching. No one should have to fear for their life because of their sexuality or color of their skin. We must confront this hate. It's a lie. It's misinformation. It's not accurate. Vice President of the United States Kamala Harris still has that tweet up. Joe Biden, President of the United States, tweeted, "What happened today to Jussie Smollett must never be tolerated in this country. We must stand up and demand we no longer give this hate safe harbor, that homophobia and racism have no place on our streets or in our hearts. We're with you, Jussie." Now, both of those tweets are still up. There's also an entire cavalcade of stupidity from people at MSNBC who didn't even bother to cover this verdict. Joy Ann Reid, who is one of the dumbest people in media, said nooses never really disappeared as messages of a very specific kind of terror, but every time they're used, my God, it's chilling. Praying for Jussie's full recovery and for all of us. No mention of the fact that he's a liar. Rashida Tlaib, when one of the most famous black and gay men in America is not safe, the message is clearer than it has ever been. The dangerous lie spewing from the right wing is killing and hurting our people. Thinking of you, Jussie Smollett, and my LGBTQ neighbors. Eric Swalwell, what happened to Jussie Smollett is vile and tragic. Thankfully, he will recover. But hate crimes like this are happening more frequently, egged on by careless, hate-filled rhetoric. We start reducing these crimes by rejecting the speech. Neither can ever be accepted as normal. Cory Booker, the vicious attack on actor Jussie Smollett was an attempted modern-day lynching. I'm glad he's safe. To those in Congress who don't feel the urgency to pass our anti-lynching bill designating lynching as a federal hate crime, I urge you to pay attention. AOC, there is no such thing as racially charged. This attack was not possibly homophobic. It was racist and homophobic. It was a racist and homophobic attack. If you don't like what's happening in our country, then work to change it. It's no one's job to water down or sugarcoat the rise of hate crimes. Lori Lightfoot, mayor of Chicago. My thoughts and prayers are with Jussie Smollett. Everyone deserves to live safely as their true, authentic self in this city. As mayor, I will make sure, regardless of the victim's stature, hate crime incidents and complaints are fully investigated. And, not to be outdone, Bernie Sanders. The racist and homophobic attack on Jussie Smollett is a horrific instance of the surging hostility toward minorities around the country. We must come together to eradicate all forms of bigotry and violence. These tweets are all lies. They are a perfect example of narrative over fact. Don't wait for the actual evidence to come out. Don't spend the time to actually allow investigations to occur. Immediately expect and share with your large audiences a falsehood. It was interesting. The Hill had a poll yesterday that found 26% of people still believed Jussie Smollett. How's that possible? I think it's because a lot of people see the initial coverage and never see the actual follow-up. They see all of the news coverage of the alleged fake hate crime, and they never see that it was, in fact, a fake hate crime. They see it, they believe it, and when stories like these happen, I believe the MSNBCs of the world have an obligation to let their audience know that this story did not actually occur as they reported it. I certainly believe that all these politicians who still have these tweets up have an obligation to correct this as well. Instead, they allow the lies to spread and fester. And by the way, this also brings me back to LeBron James. Remember the fake racial crime that he alleged for the racial slur that was supposedly on his gate? The LA Police Department investigated it. No evidence that it ever happened. That story just got completely memory holed, just like so many other stories. When the facts don't fit the narrative, the story disappears. Remember Michael Bennett, racial profiling by the Las Vegas police that everybody covered as if it were 100% true? Also a lie. So many of these stories are proven to be lies. Remember, what's the incentive structure here for Jussie Smollett? He knew that if he were the victim of a race and homophobic-based attack, that it would be good for his career. There is more demand for race and homophobic crimes than there are actually a supply of them, which is how all these lies come to be. Jussie Smollett was trying to profit off racial division. I believe he should have to go to jail for years. I think he should get the maximum penalty available to him because of what he did was a direct assault upon black, white, Asian, and Hispanic people. And oh, by the way, if you are actually a victim of a racial hate crime or a homophobic hate crime, people are less likely to believe you because of the Jussie Smolletts of the world. The people who should be angriest at Jussie are the people who actually need for race and hate and homophobic crimes to be treated as such. He makes it far more difficult for the people who might actually someday be true victims in this criminal context.